Greetings, my name is George Falconer and this is Peniel. Have you ever read the book of Job? I've always found that a very interesting and challenging book. At the start of it, Job is a wealthy man, but what he does not know is that there's an interaction between God and the devil challenges God and basically says that Job is blessed by God, that's why he worships God. And God says, no, Job worships me because of the sort of person he is. And God allows the devil to do terrible things to Job, like sweep away his family, sweep away all his possessions, and sweep away his health. The only condition is that he's not allowed to put him to death. But Job doesn't know that. Job has no idea why he's suffering. And to make matters worse, Job's three friends have got a theology which says, well, Job must have sinned because he's suffering. They think they know it all. They think they understand what's happening. And they spend a long time just sitting with Job in silence. And when they finally speak, what they say is well intended and probably good theology, but it just didn't add up. It wasn't the reality. And I think his friends probably made him even more depressed, because he's thinking, I haven't sinned, you're telling me I must have done, I know I haven't, I don't know what's happening. But if I come face to face with God, Job's saying, I will say things to him, I want to say things to God. And his friends continue going on and on and on. And there's long chapters about all the things they said. And finally, when God speaks, the thing that fascinates me is that God doesn't answer Job's questions. At the end of the book, Job is still not any the wiser about the confrontation between God and the devil concerning him. Instead, God challenges him and asks him the question, who are you? Did you make the heavens and the earths and so forth? And are you basically saying, have you done what I've done, Lord, Job? Are you where I am, Job? Think of me, think of my majesty and so forth. That's what God confronts Job with. God has got the right to do as he pleases. And as I say, we only know about this because God has revealed it to us in the Bible, in the book of Job. Job didn't know. And it seems to me Job didn't know even when he was restored. So the final chapter of Job 42 says this. Then Job answered the Lord, I know that you can do everything, and that your plans are unstoppable, which indeed they are. God had put a limit on what the devil was allowed to do to Job, and God stopped the devil, not the other way around. You said, who is this that belittles my advice without having any knowledge about it? Yes, I have stated things I didn't understand, things too mysterious for me to know. And we need to understand that there is God's revealed will, and then there's God's secret will. And Job's saying, I hadn't thought about all the things that are too mysterious for me to know. I should be trusting you and magnifying your name, and indeed I am seeking to do that. And Job is apologetic for really thinking, I am going to confront God and say to God, I did not sin, why did you allow this to happen to me? And we need to remember that we don't know everything, not even about the things that are actually happening to us, because we might be in a situation where the devil is seeking to destroy us or seeking to belittle us so that God's glory is stolen, and God's doing something about it and saying, okay, you can do so much to this believer, but you can only go so far, and you will see my glory. Or as someone else puts it, and I've heard this quote from Johnny Erickson Tada, God permits what he hates to achieve that which he loves. And by allowing this in Job's life, God was glorified. And we need to remember that about our own lives as well. Anyway, the chapter goes on to say, you said, listen now and I will speak. I will ask you and you will teach me. I have heard about you with my own ears, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. That is why I take back what I said, and I sit in dust and ashes to show that I am sorry. Job repented. Job had said, I am going to ask God all this, and I'm going to say this to God. And now that God has revealed more to him, but he hasn't revealed the discussion with the devil, Job is repentant and says, I take back what I said. Have you ever taken back what you said? Have you ever been sorry about things you may have said to God in accusation? Why me, Lord? I don't deserve this. God accomplishes his will one way or another, even in hard circumstances. And God was showing the devil that Job wouldn't curse him. Remember, even Job's own wife had said to him, curse God and die. That must have been a terrible temptation to him. And although Job said, I want to confront the God and say this and that, Job did not at any time curse God. God was right. Job loved the Lord. Job was so concerned about his love for the Lord that he even made sacrifices on behalf of his own children in case they were sinning, in case they were saying things against God. Job was concerned about his family and their relationship with the Lord, as we should be too. But sometimes we need to acknowledge that our knowledge is limited. We don't see it all. And Job didn't see it all. And as I say, even at the end of the book, Job still doesn't see what happened to start his suffering. And that's always baffled me. Why did God not tell Job, okay, Job, this is what was happening? I'm still baffled by it. Even after all these years, I still think that is truly amazing that God did not take up Job's questions and answer them. Instead, God gave Job rhetorical questions that pointed to God's character. And Job reached the conclusion that God was too wonderful for him to fully understand. And that's true of us too. It goes on, says, after the Lord had said these things to Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz from Teman, I'm very angry with you and your two friends, because Job didn't speak what is right about me. So because you didn't speak what is right about me, as my servant Job has done. So he's angry at the friends who came to comfort him, thought they knew it all. God was angry at them for their bad advice. So take 7 young bulls and 7 rams. Go to my servant Job and make a burnt offering for yourselves. My servant Job will pray for you, Then I will accept his prayer and not treat you as godless fools. After all, you didn't speak what is right about me, as my servant Job has done. The whole thing turned round. They must have been praying for Job. And instead, God says, I'm angry with you for the way you've spoken. You haven't spoken about me in the way Job has. So make these offerings, and my servant Job will pray for you, and I will accept his prayer. So Job knows his prayer for his friends are going to be accepted. I would imagine it's a prayer of forgiveness for his friends. That's just my guess at it. They thought they knew it all and didn't. And it's Job, the one who suffered, is charged with praying for his friends, who must have made him even more depressed with their advice and questions. And God likens his friends to being godless. They thought that they were speaking on behalf of God. And they sincerely believed that. But they were wrong, because they couldn't see the full picture. How many times are we guilty of that? We never see the full picture. If we think we see the full picture, we are deceiving ourselves. We need to trust in the Lord all the more and remember that everything is possible with the Lord, and that the Lord is in charge, and he will decree what becomes of us. After Job prayed for his friends, the Lord restored Job's prosperity and gave him twice as much as he had before. Then all his brothers and sisters and everyone who had previously known him came to him. They ate with him at his house, sympathized with him and comforted him for all the evil the Lord had brought to him. Each one gave some money and gold ring. Now, Job's fortunes were restored. However, these friends came to comfort him. And I'm guessing that one of the things they came to comfort him about was the loss of his sons and daughters. Yes, he had more sons and daughters, but he would never forget the ones that he lost. His fortune was restored. But, you know, if you lose people, if you lose family members, you do not forget them, and you still grieve about them. So Job still lived with the consequences of what God had permitted to happen to him. Even though he had his health back, and he had a new family, and he had new stocks, the loss of his family would still be with him. And he would remember all the things he suffered with his deterioration of health. And he'd pray for his friends and remember all the things they said to him that were wrong. And that would have stood as a warning to other people as well. And it stands as a warning to us. Don't think we know it all. Then the Lord blessed the latter years of Job's life more than the earlier years. He had 14,000 sheep and goats, 6,000 camels, 2,000 oxen, and 1,000 donkeys. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He named the first daughter Jemimah, the second Cassia, and the third Karen Hapkuch. Nowhere in the whole country could be found women who were as beautiful as Job's daughters. Their father gave them and their brothers an inheritance. Job lived 140 years. After this, he saw his children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Then, at a very old age, Job died. But of course, we still have his written testimony to bless us and to warn us that in the heavenly realm there are things we can't see. There is a war going on between God and the devil. And the devil seeks to destroy us. And God seeks to save us, but not necessarily always in the way that we think. The idea that if things are going well, God is blessing us, and if things are going badly, then God is against us is too simple. Sometimes things go wrong for us because what we are seeking to do for God is the right thing, and the devil hates it. And that's what Job was doing. He was seeking to honour God in everything he did, and the devil hated that. And God permitted the devil to go so far to prove to the devil it wasn't just because Job was blessed in abundance of riches that he honoured God. Job gave God the rightful place in his heart as being his Lord. And we need to do the same thing. And in all circumstances, honour the Lord. Amen.